Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast from the Podium edition. I'm Brandon Schultz. Yes, I am back, and I am fired up because it is game day and the Seahawks are facing off against the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm planning on hopping on with Adam after the game to recap what we see on this Sunday. But before we get there, we got to hear from Pete Carroll and his thoughts on today's matchup.
This is a really important week for us to come back from the game we had last week and play well and try to build on what we did, making progress in some areas. We have so many areas to continue to develop. Guys are working at their stuff, but then groups are working at their stuff, and this is just important. And we got a really good matchup going against the first place team, and they're good, and they're just coming off a big win. Also, all of that. So this is going to be a really challenging game for us. We have worked well, and we're working through guys coming back to us and staying healthy. And I don't have all the answers for you today. But you can ask away, but I'll tell you what I can. But it feels like we're getting, we're holding it together right now, and a lot of teams are really hurting, and I'm hoping we can hang on to that.
On Wednesday, Pete spoke about some of the Chargers' offensive weapons, including running back Austin Ekeler.
He's just a really good player. He's a star player. He's a great finisher with the ball in his hands, and he's really hard to tackle, and he doesn't give up on a play ever. And so you have to finish him and do a really good job. And they get him in all kinds of spaces, as you can see with all the passes that he's caught. The game, their passing game, is one that does feature the chance for him to, be a centerpiece. And so it's reminiscent of some of the stuff you've seen Joe do over the years, back in New Orleans and all that. There's some real carryover.
How the Seahawks are able to handle Ekeler is, I think, going to be a major talking point after the game, because if they're not able to handle him, similar to the style of running back of Alvin Kamara, I can't see how this defense can shut down a guy like Ekeler based on what we've seen so far this season. We've seen it one game against the Arizona Cardinals, and that was Eno Benjamin. But this is a whole different thing with Ekeler in the backfield. And not only is it a whole different running back, they've got a whole different quarterback that they're facing off against. This is not Kyler Murray. This is Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert.
Well, first off, he's incredible. He's an incredible athlete and player, and I've listened to him, his interviews and stuff over the offseason, just trying to get to know who he is and how he handles stuff and all that. And he's a really together kid too. But immediately he reminds you of Josh Allen. That's the big guy that can move around and get outside the pocket and strike you dead. Has all the throws and all of the arm talent and strength that you would ever need. And he's a really good competitor too. Just the fact that he got banged up earlier in the year and just kept fighting through it, man. That's a difficult injury that he's fought through, and so you got to give him a lot of credit on all levels.
Linebacker Jordyn Brooks also talked about Los Angeles' offensive weapons.
They got playmakers, just like every other team in this league. They got playmakers. They got a really good quarterback, good running back, receivers. And so we just got to execute our game plan like what we got going this week. And so, like I said, just keep honing in on the details. Make sure we tackle well. They got some guys that can get you out of space and make you miss some tackles. And so tackle well, execute the calls, and just play together.
One weapon that Carroll didn't speak about was wide receiver Keenan Allen. Here were some comments on the receiver from his former teammate, Uchenna Nwosu.
He means a lot. He's the number one guy. He's been the number one guy there for over this entire career there. So when you get a number one guy back like that, it makes it tough for us defensively. And offensively, it just makes them even better than what they already are. So when Keenan coming back, we got to get hats to the ball on him. He's coming off injury. So, who knows how quick or explosive he'll be. He hasn't played football in a while, so we got to use that to our advantage, get hats on him, and, make him feel the defense.
We'll get back to Nwosu in a minute, but first, let's get to defensive coordinator Clint Hurtt's response when asked about how quarterback Justin Herbert manages to not get sacked, having only been brought down 7 times in 6 games this year.
So a combination of a couple things. One, he does get the ball out quick. They have some RPO and quick game things as part of the offense. That can get him on rhythm, and some boots to get him out of the pocket, moving passes. But the other side of it, too, is very similar to the bigger quarterbacks in this league, like a Josh Allen and some of the other bigger guys. He's really strong. You see linemen or blitzers come near him and he stiff arms guys and still gets the ball out. That's a unique thing for a big guy like that. We saw that when we played Josh Allen in Buffalo a couple years ago. So he has the same innate trait where he can get himself out of a lot of danger that way. Very talented passer. Saw him, I was telling Coach this the other day, when he was his last year at Oregon, going into his last year at Oregon, I went to go speak at their spring clinic when Mario Cristobal was still there. And I didn't know anything about the team. And I'm there watching the play, and I see this kid like a defensive end tight end playing the quarterback spot, but he can sling the ball. I said, who the heck is that? He's like, yeah, our quarterback, he's pretty good. No kidding. So, yeah, he's a good player.
The Seahawks, of course, had 6 sacks last week, a major improvement. Here's where Hurtt was on the improvements in general.
Obviously, coming out of the opening drive, there were some things that's like, oh, boy, after the initial start. But the communication part, again, you guys constantly hear me talk about that, was took huge steps forward. And even things going within the down, after the play started, the communication on routes, the pickups, things of that nature, pre-snap communication, all those things were really good. And seeing guys have fun. Obviously, when you can execute at a high level, you should have fun playing the game because you make it really hard on the offense, and it should be a successful day for you. So all those things were really good.
On the Seahawks offense, Carroll hopes wide receiver D. Eskridge can continue to stack reps this week.
Really, you can sense that guys can see him. He's just grown. He's grown in the program and all. There's a comparison that I would have for you when Golden Tate was here. It took Golden a while to get caught up with everything and to be able to express the beautiful talent that he had. And it's kind of like I've always looked at guys that are really natural athletes that everything comes really easy to them. Sometimes they don't pay attention to all the details because they can do stuff anyway, and they can make things look right. And Dwayne is just like that. He's as natural as can be. He can run and catch and jump and change direction, and he can be a ball carrier. He can be a gunner on the kickoff on the punt team. He's just a natural football player, and it's always been within his command. Well, now we're so disciplined about what we're asking guys to do that sometimes, and this isn't just unique to Golden and to Dwayne, a lot of young guys come in the league and it takes them a while to realize how detailed the wide receiver position is so the quarterback can function accordingly. And that's the whole key to it. So he's kind of, you can see him, he's blossoming right now. He's really going. And so we're going to keep working him and utilize him as much as we can.
And elsewhere on offense, let's hear from quarterback Geno Smith, who used to play for the Chargers not too long ago, although long enough ago that I forgot that he did play for LA.
It was cool, man. It was cool. The Spanos family and, Mr. Telesco and the GM, all those guys, man, they welcomed me in for the short time I was there. It was actually Uchenna's rookie year. And, a bunch of the guys are still on the team, but I enjoyed it. It was a real good organization.
Here were Geno's thoughts on the Chargers defense.
They have a really good defense. I expect them to be physical. They got great guys up front, Khalil Mack, Sebastian Joseph Day, who we've seen with the Rams. They got a bunch of guys up front. Obviously, Joey's out, but they still have capable guys. Their linebackers are young and fast. They fly around, they hit. You got Derwin James in the back end, who's a really good safety, one of the better safeties in the league. J.C. Jackson, who they just signed over, one of the better corners, a guy who's really known for taking away the ball. Gets a lot of interceptions and things like that. So they got guys all over. Going to be another challenge, and I think we're up to the challenge. We just got to be on our game, come out playing fast and playing together.
When Geno was on the Chargers, a rookie named Uchenna Nwosu was part of that Chargers D.
Man, I remember Uchenna's rookie year. We were in the playoffs. He got a strip sack, sealed the game for us in our first playoff game, and he's doing the same thing now. Man, that's who he is. He's a playmaker. Explosive off the edge. I remember watching him at USC and being impressed with him and who's this number 42 out there? And then getting a chance to play with him and being with him a second time. He's a pro's pro, plays hard every play. He's a leader and just an explosive guy off the edge, guy you want on your team.
So speaking of Nwosu, let's go back to him and hear what he had to say about going up against his former team for the first time.
Man, it's going to mean a lot, going back home. Being able to play in front of my family and my friends like I've done, my whole entire athletic career, sports career, so looking forward to seeing my family and my friends support me in that stance.
With the move to Seattle, Nwosu is living away from Los Angeles for the first time in his life, as he also went to high school and college in the area.
I'm more of a to-myself kind of guy anyway, so no matter where I go, I think I'll be all right. The weather has been pretty good, you feel me? So I was expecting something totally different, but so far it's been pretty good. Give it a week. They said that last week, man. What's going on? It's coming. They said that last week, man. Where it's at? I'm enjoying the weather, man. It's nice. I like the rain. I like, that, so I don't mind. Sometimes the sun gets a little too hot, but now, it's cool, so I'm doing just fine.
On the football side of things, here's what Nwosu had to say about how the team's pass rush can pick up where it left off last week.
Big confidence, with the guys we got up front, with the things that everybody can do on the front line. I'm confident, we'll be able to get after any quarterback, not just Justin Herbert. Any team we face, we can get after him. And we just make sure we play our assignment, sound football technique, and we'll be happy with the results on Sunday.
Elsewhere on the defense, let's check in with quarterback Tariq Woolen, who talked about his meeting with the Seahawks at the Combine.
I still remember because my 2 meetings before that, I was sweating and all nervous. And then it was my last meeting. I only had 3 meetings, and I walked into the press box, and I remember seeing Coach Hurtt. And I was like, dang, this must be Coach Pete bodyguard or something. And then I didn't see Coach Pete at first either, so I walked in, I was like, okay. And then he moved, and all I seen was a short guy with white hair, gray hair. And then I was like, I knew who that was. And he seen me, he started smiling. And then from there, I started smiling too. And then we just sat down, and they just showed plays, and he was just asking, how did I learn how to play back shoulders, and why did I do this on certain plays? And I told him. And then he was like, okay. And then, it just was good vibes from there. And then once people found out I met with the Seahawks, they was like, oh, you going to go to the Seahawks and all this, blah, blah. And I was like, well, we'll see. And then I'm standing right here.
Lastly, before we get to injury updates, here's offensive coordinator Shane Waldron on his familiarity with the Chargers head coach Brandon Staley. Both Staley and Waldron were on the Rams staff under Sean McVay.
It's still another hard week in the NFL, and Brandon Staley's done an excellent job. He was such a great defensive coach the year I got to spend with him with the Rams, and just his knowledge of the game, his understanding of both offensive football and defensive football, is at such an elite level that he's just great conversations and a great guy to really try to pick his brain and learn more from. So it'll be a great challenge. I know he's going to do a great job with, his different mixing and matching of personnel groups like we saw this past week. And, it'll be our job to try to figure out, that scheme as early as we can and see how we can adjust to it.
Waldron also raved about pass rusher Khalil Mack, who will be another major challenge for the Seahawks offense to handle.
It's imperative to know where he is. He's an elite player in this league. He's been doing it at a high level for a long time. And I always think, one of the challenges of going against Mack is his ability to play all 3 downs at such a high level. He's an elite pass rusher. His speed to power is second to none. But then he's also savvy in the run game, playing on the edges on the play action. So just need to know where he's at all times. And they do a nice job of balancing him up so he's not just in one spot throughout the course of the game.
And now Coach Carroll is back, this time with his thoughts on the 49ers trade for running back Christian McCaffrey.
That's a big time trade, big time commitment to go after him, He's a great player, so that makes him better.
I got to say, maybe a strategic move by our producer Wilson Kahn on putting Christian McCaffrey in with the injury update section. So as we move on to the Seahawks injury updates, we're going to start with one of our own running backs, Travis Homer, as well as linebacker Daryl Johnson.
Travis is really making progress. He's a week away now. He'll be eligible to come back next week. We'll see if he can do that. He's worked really hard. He's really chomping at the bit to get back. Bam is a little less known right now. He hasn't been able to do as much, so he's not as close right now.
Another dual player update came from Pete Carroll on Wednesday, this time on defensive lineman Alton Robinson and cornerback Trey Brown.
I don't have a good one for Alton right now. He's still kind of in the middle of it. Trey is really starting to go. He's really close, and he's running really fast. He's changing direction. It's just, can he endure it and keep coming back? So he's not very far away now. I would say that we're a couple weeks away maybe, and he should really be fighting to get back out there.
The last update of the long-term injuries came on wide receiver Penny Hart.
I talked to Penny specifically today. There was a chance we could have IR'd him a week ago, and just knowing his nature and how he bounces back and all that, that would have set him down for 4 weeks. I just told him, I said, we thought about it, but just kind of counting on you. He'll make it back before then. So we'll see. It's still a 4-week injury, but some guys, they can beat those time frames.
As for shorter-term injuries, here was Coach Carroll's Friday update on wide receiver Tyler Lockett.
His chances are really good at playing. We put him on ice and to make sure that he can get get stronger through these last 2 weeks. He was a little bit hampered last week, but he made it through, and so we're just trying to be careful with him. If there's anybody in the program that we can do this with, he can do it. So we'll see. I'm not going to know till game day.
And lastly, defensive lineman L.J. Collier.
He did well. He was back to normal. He did a good job. So he's available to us if we can do that.
And usually here on the game day episode, we get to the injury reports for each team, but I feel like we're missing out on one small thing because we did hear Clinton Bonner touch on the DK Metcalf questioning of Pete Carroll. We heard there was a potential party coming up. What is the update on DK Metcalf's Halloween bonanza?
No, I gotta still send out the invitations.
So nothing yet. Pete looking for his invite. I'm looking for my invite, DK. You can send one my way. It'll be tough because I'll try and have to manage Halloween with the kids and the Halloween party with you, and it is an 8-hour drive. I'll try and make it work. If I can't, though, DK, maybe with that in mind, DK, it's okay to not send me an invite. Okay, glad we have that settled. So, moving on. For the Seahawks, Tyler Lockett and cornerback Sidney Jones are listed as questionable going into this game. Cornerback Artie Burns, wide receiver Penny Hart, and offensive lineman Gabe Jackson all are doubtful, and cornerback Isaiah Dunn is out. For the Chargers, wide receiver Keenan Allen and defensive lineman Sebastian Joseph Day are questionable, and if Joseph Day can't go, that will impact their run defense that's already somewhat questionable. Kicking game taking a hit. The star of the show against the Broncos, kicker Dustin Hopkins, going to be out this game, along with running back Joshua Kelly, receiver Joshua Palmer, and tight end Donald Parham Jr. That's going to do it for the show. Thanks to Wilson Kahn for producing this episode. Follow him out on Twitter at Wilson_Kahn, CONN. You can follow me out on Twitter at SeahawkersPod. And if you are a member of the flock, at getintheflock.com, I'll be sending out a notification that we're going to be going live after the game on YouTube. Also, you can go ahead and if you're not a member of the flock, head on over to youtube.com/SeahawkersPodcast and you can hit the notification bell. That way you can get notified when we go live and you can hop right on, usually right after the game, sometimes before we hear from Pete Carroll. Sometimes we wait to hear from head coach Pete Carroll before we go live. Also, it kind of depends on timing with dinner and that sort of thing. So it's not always a set time, but if you hit the notification bell or if you're a member at getintheflock.com, we will give you a heads up, at least in advance, about 30 minutes or so. So head on over there and we will look forward to seeing you after the game. Until then, go Hawks.